Welcome back to the Beast Machines episode reviews. We are on episode 3, Fires of the Past. Once again, be prepared for things to go very quickly. As we stated in last episode, Beast Machines is a very quickly paced series, so the fact that all of this is going to get thrown at us is not really surprising at this point. So, the opening shows us basically the failings of the last two episodes. The Maximals eluding capture from the Viacons, and Megatron not being able to purge himself of his beast mode. We do find out two important things about that situation. Number one, the diagnostic drone apparently lies to make Megatron feel better. We are informed through the dialogue that they constantly try to find ways of eliminating the organic material from Megatron's body. So it's a constant effort by Megatron to rid himself of his dragon mode. And then when he gets angry again, watching his Viacons fail again, he loses it, transforms into beast mode. So yeah, the drone who claimed 100% removed, maybe not so much. It's also pointed out in this episode that Megatron could simply just have his spark move to another body and completely rid himself of the beast mode that way. But he claims if he did that, he would leave himself vulnerable to the Maximals. Well, maybe. Maybe. By the end of the episode, that's going to be a moot point because he's going to have generals. But also, just, I don't know. It feels like there's more vanity to it than anything. It's not so much being vulnerable as it is. I think it comes across as if Megatron doesn't want to give up his original body. And that he just wants to try and fix it by his standards. His new standards. I've seen explanations in the chats about why he's so, anti-biological, why he is so dead set on purging organics. There really doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason that makes sense to me. Everything is conjecture, and everything is headcanon. And the truth here is, if it was well written, you wouldn't need to fill in the blanks like that. You wouldn't need to do the writing for the writers. So it's a messy piece of writing that never went properly explained, and I'm going to leave it at that for the rest of this series. Otherwise, I'm going to complain about it a lot. So another big thing in this episode, one of the biggest things in this episode, is now Blackarachnia is starting to have flashbacks. So we've already kind of gotten used to having these prophetic dreams in Beast Wars, thanks to Cheetor, and then we've got a few spiritual journeys from Primal as well. Now it's Blackarachnia's turn to go on one, because she's imagining jungle. She is imagining a setting from Earth. She's starting to remember a few things. And in particular, this is her quest for the episode. Her and Rat Trap are going off to try and find, against Primal's wishes, by the way, they're going off to try and find some kind of record of who was with them, because now Blackarachnia knows they weren't the only Maximals who arrived back on Cybertron, and they hit on the idea of checking the aerospace records, which means they could tap the memory banks of the ship they came back to Cybertron in. It's actually a pretty smart little loophole to leave in the writing because, he wiped the main computer of Cybertron, but there might still be records in little places that aren't connected to the grid. Not a bad little thing to leave in. So, they go hunting for their Autobot shuttle, or at the very least the information on the Autobot shuttle. And that's mostly what is going on in this episode. They do eventually find something. They do eventually find out that, yes, there were more Maximals on the ship. They suddenly remember Rhinox and Silverbolt. I don't really know Again, no explanation as to why the transmetal virus that wiped out their original forms. No, at this point they don't know that's what the virus did. But there's also no explanation given for why it made them forget other Maximals besides themselves. It's weird. It's weird. It's a plot convenience, to be sure. But, you're going to have to get used to that on this series a little bit. So, obviously, that's not the only thing going on in the episode. So, with the repeated failure of the Viacons, Megatron realizes that there might be something beneficial to having at least a few minions who actually have the capacity for creative thought and the ability to command the drones remotely, so it's not all on Megatron at all times. So we are introduced to the Viacon generals, Thrust, Tankor, and Jetstorm. Jetstorm, who is going to dominate not only this episode but the rest of the series as far until he's done away with. He is consistently going to be the most entertaining thing in this series. And yeah, he does the bulk of the talking for the Viacons. Thrust barely speaks at all. And then Tankor has this really weird line delivery where it's not even like he sounds like big, oafish, and dumb. He sounds like he's constantly in pain. He sounds as if he's always struggling to say what he's saying. It's a really weird direction. But at least it's a little different than just your standard, just like slow-speaking brute, I guess. So, I will give them credit. The introduction of the Viacon generals is legitimately threatening. After seeing all these ineffective drones for the last 2 episodes, yeah, it's actually really, really well done how they're introduced, and the fact that just the 3 of them are such a threat to the Maximals, so much more so than the drones are. So good on Megatron for having an idea, and yeah, we desperately needed some characters on the Viacon side. I do question that Megatron has been dealing with these Maximals for literally just over 1 episode. Remember, they've been on the run. It's not like Megatron is like struggling to win the war against them. They just keep getting out of his grasp. They just keep escaping capture. That's all. Like, they're still running scared. He's still in control of the planet. He still has them in like the worst spot the Maximals have ever been in. So the Viacon just kind of come across as impatience more than anything. But it's a necessary. So I mentioned that Blackarachnia and Rat Trap go off to try and find these records against Primal's wishes. In this episode, Primal he's still going into he's just beginning his self-loathing arc, and he's going really heavy on it, to the point where the anger just feels very out of character for Primal. Even if you just take in his depiction that he has here in this series, where he's supposed to be more spiritual, more, rationally minded. No, he's just horribly angry. To be fair, there is reason for him to be this upset, but he has also been through entire wars. He has lost personal friends in said war. I would expect him to keep a little bit of a cooler head than this, especially when dealing with the only ones that have survived this cataclysm. It just comes across like he's just going way too hard in it, and it's just something in the writing or the directing, one or the other, just went way too far. Way too far. I understand what he's going through, but it's not enjoyable to watch. It's not really it's to the point where it's almost unrelatable. There's other weird things in this episode. The tank drones just randomly destroy a statue of Optimus Prime for no reason. I mean, it just seems like Megatron decided to be spiteful to make himself feel better. We found out that Cybertronian sewers stink for some reason. The one really big revelation in this episode is that the Viacon scanners do not work on their beast modes. Only in robot mode can the scanners actually find the Maximals. So it's not a bad replacement for the whole Energon surge thing that they were going through in Season 1 of Beast Wars. Gives them excuse to stay in beast mode, even though it's, in some cases, serves no practical value in their situations. So, yeah, it's a nice way of keeping the beast modes relevant, even at a time when they really shouldn't be. So, it's not a bad substitute. We're going to get playful with the cinematography in this series. And this is the episode where that kind of starts, because we have a random split screen thrown in and a random picture-in-picture for no reason, and I'm not sure we gain anything by it. It just comes across as very random and kind of unwelcome, for me. But that's a minor issue, and that's definitely a personal opinion thing. So, Fires of the Past, if we're going to keep this, if we're going to keep the scores of this series relative to the series that they come from, then this is an enjoyable episode. It's definitely got its problems. It's got its moments that I can't really enjoy personally, like Primal, but the Viacons were introduced well. There is a very good loophole for starting to get their memories back, and we've deepened the mystery of the series, like finding why did we forget that there were 2 other Maximals? Where are they now? So all of that is starting up in this episode as well. So yeah, this episode gets a lot done, and it's not too bad overall. So there you go, episode 3, all done. Yeah, not too bad. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, you will see the next one hopefully tomorrow, if all goes to plan. We'll see you then.
It's the bosun's turn. He's looking at TJ's character and he's just like, "What you gonna do?"
Right. I blew him a kiss.
I love him. I love him.
What the hell's your problem? He's just gonna pull his hand crossbow and just fire at you.
That's fair at this point.